spiritual awakening was supposed to bring me peace and joy. But what I find is more conflict and suffering. Why is this happening? How do I know if indeed there has been an awakening or that my mind is just playing games with me? We are going to dive deep into this aspect. Those of you who are interested can join me in the Mumbai retreat, which is being held from 27th November to 30th November. And the information is in the description box. So, Ramesh Balsekar gave us two concepts. One is awakening, second is deliverance. Now, you've often heard me saying that awakening is a crack in the structure of the personality. What does that mean? That means that the subject-object split has happened. The breakdown of it has happened. The subject being me and the object being others or anything that is not me. When this relationship between the subject and the object breaks down, it is a crack in the structure of the personality or me. But what happens is that the mind is conditioned to old patterns, to old way of thinking. So it is confused and not ready to accept that this has happened. Although through that crack there has been a glimpse into the wholeness. And in that glimpse there was immense peace and joy and bliss. But when the mind comes back, it questions. It says, so are you saying that all of my life was an illusion? That all that I learned from childhood till now about life, how to navigate life, how to be in this world, how to be in the society, how to follow tradition, culture, values, beliefs, religion, all that has no concrete existence? The mind questions. It starts to question each and everything. And that is where the pain comes. That is where we go through what has been called in the classical texts as the dark night of the soul. Because there are two forces. One force is based on control, but the other force knows that control is futile. So they are pulling in two different directions. And this causes a lot of confusion, a lot of chaos, a lot of conflict. So how do we know if the awakening is indeed real? One way to know is that when awakening truly happens, now note that I am saying awakening happens. I am not saying that the person awakens. The person does not awaken because there already has been a crack in the structure of the personality. So what has been cracked cannot awaken. But through that crack, the awakening happens. So when this awakening happens, the mind stops externalizing things. What this means is, whatever has happened up till now as a part of your story begins to fade, and the mind goes inward every time any pain happens. So let's say if you had a difficult relationship, rather than your mind obsessing over why did they do this, do that to me, the mind starts turning inwards into who is this me? What is the nature of this me? Why am I feeling hurt? And in this whole dynamic, in this relationship that I had with this another person, what was the role that I played? I can say that I was hurt, they hurt me, but that is all externalizing. They hurt me, they did this, they did that, they made my life miserable. So it's all they, them, this person did that, that person did that. When the mind is strengthened and oriented like that, outwardly, that is not awakening. In awakening, the mind goes inward. Awakening forces you to confront your inner conflict. What role did I play in this dynamic? If somebody was, let's say, harsh towards me, if their behavior was harsh towards me, why did I tolerate that behavior? What made me still stick to them? What did I want? So the focus turns inward towards this me. What is this me? Where is this hurt originating from? Let's go to the source of it. That is the inquiry. And it is a painful inquiry. It is never going to be easy. So after this comes the second question, the second concept that Ramesh Balsekar speaks about, which is deliverance. So as the mind starts to investigate into the nature of me, it finds itself only in one place, in the place of being. And resting in this place of being, in this place of peace and tranquility, where there is neither me nor the other, it finds joy, bliss. Or let's say that mind is no mind, but there is only wholeness. So this presence, this wholeness begins to grow. It begins to permeate every aspect of reality. While you're working, while you're eating, while you're talking to other people, you never lose the sight of yourself. So you begin to see relief, feel relieved as this deliverance happens, because this pseudo entity me begins to fade. And when there is no me, there is no other that is not me. So this separation between me and the other begins to dissolve. So as this happens more and more, one feels more and more peace and tranquility. Even in the midst of chaos, one never loses the sight of the self, the eternal self. One does not question, why this, why that, why did it happen to me? It is not about invalidating anything, any difficult circumstance or situation that happened. It is okay to acknowledge that, but one does not live with that victim mentality, constantly blaming, shaming the other, because that just perpetuates this cycle of suffering, pain and suffering constantly, because you start reliving your past every now and then, and again go back to sorrow, to hopelessness. So, with this me entity fading, the story around it also begins to dissolve. And this is why I wrote this book, The End of Me and My Story. When the me is gone, the story is gone. When the me is gone, the others are gone. Now, the me totally does not disappear. The me is there for a purpose. It is there for the functioning of body, for daily functional activities like interacting with others, taking care of yourself, self-preservational activities. The me is there for that purpose, but it remains there just for that purpose. The me does not expand in horizontal time as this happened or that happened to me. But the understanding of the deliverance is that things happen and there is no individual doer of anything. And this is what we are going to dwell deep in every conversation. Because this is the most challenging concept for the ego to accept. The fading away of me, the loosening of me and its identifications is acceptance. And with acceptance, peace is the natural outcome. So you've become free from, quote unquote, becoming and unbecoming. You're no more caught up in worldly aspirations. The mind body organism does work because it needs to work. So activity happens, but you're no more concerned with the results. You just live your life, enjoy your life, basking in the sun of this eternal presence, without worrying about what will happen, what should happen, what must happen. All this should not, must, this begins to disappear. The absolutes begin to dissolve. And you become more open towards life. And with deliverance, you become more integrated with life, with full engagement and not involvement. Because involvement is personal, but engagement is always impersonal. You fully engage. In engagement, there is no attachment. In involvement, there is an attachment to an outcome. So this is the core concept, that truly awakening means mind turning on itself and questioning, who am I? What is the nature of this me who says, I did this, I did that? It is the recognition of this presence or being which is the source and substance of everything. And this recognition alone brings a knowledge, a different type of knowledge, not the worldly knowledge. So Ramesh Balsekar would say that awakening is almost instantaneous. And after awakening, which is the crack in the structure of the personality or breakdown of the subject-object split, this me entity is not as solid as it seemed earlier. First, the understanding was that I am living my life Now the understanding is that life is being lived through me. I'm just an instrument. So the instrument remains unaffected by what is happening externally. It accepts pain and pleasure, whatever arises in the moment. Pain will arise in the moment. Even pleasure will arise. And it fully experiences whatever arises in the moment, but it does not cling to anything, because suffering is in clinging. Even the worldly pursuits and ambitions, they continue for the mind body organism, but now they are not as solid as they appear to be, because there is not much concern with the outcome. If something happens, it happens. If not, that's also fine. So you see, we live in a relaxed state, in the state of being, which is always here and now.